Mets fans, welcome back to Talking Mets with Rob. How is everybody doing on this second off day of the week in the middle of June? Hopefully everybody is doing a little bit better since the Mets split the series against the Yankees in a 2-game set. It is very interesting when it comes to looking at the Subway Series, how bad both teams played. And both teams deserved to lose both games, and both teams didn't really deserve to win both either game, to be honest with you, the way it looked starting throughout the whole game. Like bad plays, bad errors, bad base running, bad at-bats. It just was a pile of dog crap on the field Tuesday and Wednesday. And unfortunately for the Mets, they lost the first game where they had a 4-run lead, and Scherzer couldn't get out of the fourth inning, and it spiraled out of control from there. The Mets did have opportunities to tie the ball game or take the lead later in the game, but that did not happen. And then we'll get to both of the games a little bit more in depth. But before I get started with everything, I just wanted to let everybody know that there's I just got involved with a partnership with the Say Hello Media family, as they welcomed me on board to their media company, and I do appreciate the partnership. And it is pretty cool that they're trying to get more Mets content creators to develop a big family, a big group of content creators for YouTube, just podcasts and all that fun stuff. And that is something that I wanted to bring up before I even get started. And it looks like that right there at the top of your screen, the logo with my logo and Say Hello Media's logo. So I do appreciate them for giving me the opportunity to get on board. And of course, the Shay and Sons podcast as well, that you guys know, who has already been on my channel and is a part of the Roundtable podcast on this channel, is a part of it as well. So this is good news for me, good news for you guys, because it brings a lot more eyes to not just my channel, but other channels as well, Mets channels that are trying to get the eyes on them as well. And I think it's important for all of us to establish a group, because of the fact that there's so many knowledgeable Met fans that, you know, it's not easy to get the content out there and the eyes on your content, and it's very hard to get it out there. It's not easy. And the good news is the fact that there's a lot of good Met fans out there, content creators that are very knowledgeable, and it is pretty cool to have a group of guys like that and that know what they're talking about and can actually bring us together where it probably wouldn't happen otherwise. So that's big things happening. So I do appreciate Sherry Hello Media for taking me on board, and hopefully it gets even bigger. We're going to grow all of our channels, all of our podcasts, and the company itself. That is also a big thing as well, because it's very hard to make it on your own anywhere, especially when it comes to this type of thing. If you're not collaborating with people, it's hard because you're just going to get blown away if you don't come together and collaborate with other people that have similar content. So once again, Shayla Media is now partnered with Talking Mets with Rob, and I do appreciate them bringing me on board. So Mets Yankees Subway Series, game 1 of a 2-game series. And listen, guys, I was at that game, as most of you know. I posted pictures. I told you guys I was going to that game. I was very disappointed, and I'm going to start with this. And I brought it up on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, if you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, I posted it everywhere. The YouTube short that I put out there, or excuse me, let me put it there. On Monday, when I did the Mets Roundtable podcast with the collaboration with the other guys, the other co-hosts, I specifically said, and I made it clear, Mets fans, I know you're disappointed. I know you're frustrated. I know this team has been a disappointment through, just under 70 games. But show up to Citi Field, root on your team. You can criticize them. You can boo them if they're not playing well, but show up, show the support. And one thing other than showing support was, do not let the Yankee fans take over Citi Field. That is something that is probably more embarrassing than the play on the field. You do not let another fan base take over your stadium, right? If you don't remember the first ever Subway Series game at Yankee Stadium, when Dave Malicki pitched a complete game and the Mets won the first ever Subway Series game at Yankee Stadium, Mets fans took over Yankee Stadium, right? It was an embarrassment. If you ever go back to the papers, the newspapers back then, and you see the disappointment and the embarrassment that George Steinbrenner felt, and a lot of Yankee fans are complaining, and the reporters just destroyed Yankee fans. Tuesday, and I'm going to talk about Tuesday specifically because I was there. The hardest thing, the worst thing that can happen is another fan base taking over your stadium. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. It was probably 60-40 Yankee fans. And when I put that YouTube short up there from that Monday show about Met fans, show up. I know you're disappointed, but support your team. Don't let Yankee fans take over Citi Field, right? I said that specifically because of the fact that it's an embarrassment. And then on those that video, that live that I did, I got a lot of comments and messages from Mets fans that follow my channel. Some people that I know on Twitter, and people messaging me all over the place were saying, oh, I can't stand this team. This team's disappointing. This is the worst team I ever seen. I sold my tickets. When you think about selling your tickets, and it's not a situation where you might have had something to do, things come up, you got life, that's understandable. Baseball is entertainment, right? That's one thing. The other thing is, if you're hard off on money, and you need that money, you got to sell the tickets, perfectly fine with that. Struggle is real. I understand that as well. But if you're selling the tickets and your comment is, I can't stand this team, I don't want to go watch this team, so I'm going to sell my tickets. Who do you think was going to buy these tickets? Marlins fans? National fans? No, Yankee fans. Right? They come to Citi Field when the Yankees aren't playing at Citi Field. They'll wear the Yankee jersey when the Mets and the Marlins are playing. So who do you think was going to buy those tickets? And I did a little bit of research because I wanted to really figure out what was the amount of tickets sold or that was resold on the secondary market, because that's where most of it was sold. And for my section, they moved my seat because the Subway Series, they moved some season tickets around and stuff like that. I was in section 522. If there was 20 to 30 Mets fans in my section, that was a lot. And a lot of that section are season ticket holders, 20, 40, and full package plans. So this tells me, wait a second. So I did a little research. I'm like, what was the resale market when it came to that Yankee fan, the Mets fan selling those tickets? I got the number because I kind of did a little bit of research. 11,276. That is the exact number. 11,276. That's how many Mets fans, because they were specifically sold either from the secondary market, and then when you put that in, it shows, it has a barcode, it has a number on it where specifically you bought the ticket first. And all of them, of that 11,276, were from a Mets ticket account that were sold. Sorry, Steven, bullshit. I don't want to hear that. It has nothing to do with better product on the field, right? The majority of these people bought tickets prior to the season starting, when the tickets went on sale, maybe a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago. I do not care. Listen, we dealt with the Wilpon era. And what did you show up to the Subway Series because that was our World Series for many years when the Wilpons never put a good product on the field? Because they're underperforming right now, you're gonna completely throw them away. Throw them away because they're underperforming. Not even 70 games into the season. That is an embarrassment. I'm sorry, it is. 11,276. Who do you expect to buy those tickets? Marlins fans? Nationals fans? Shit, Philly fans? No, Yankee fans. I'm sorry. You let another fan base take over your stadium, you are the definition of a bandwagon fan. You know what's even worse? A fair weather fan. If you don't know what that is, please Google that and find the definition. You know what? I'll do it for you. How about that? Since everybody wants to, jump off a bandwagon or all of a sudden don't care when you had no problem going to the Subway Series, when the Wilpons did not give a shit about you guys. And now you're all of a sudden going to jump off the bandwagon? No, but Steven, that is not the point. The point of the matter is, and I got 43 comments, and that's only a little bit compared to the 11,276. 43 comments from that video that was saying, show up, support your team, don't let Yankee fans take it over. It is about respect and a little bit of, how about showing a little bit of pride in your fan and your fans, and just a little bit of pride in being a Mets fan, a little bit, even though they suck. Even the A's fans did a reverse boycott. Like, I completely understand that it's a disappointing season so far, but we act like it's game 150 of the season, and there's no mathematical chance that the Mets are 4 games out of a wild card, guys. It takes 1 week to get back into a wild card spot. Let's not act like they're 20 games under 500 and they have no chance of making the playoffs. That is an embarrassment. And then the same people, the 11,276, you're going to hear that a lot during this stream. Right? 11,276. I understand that. Season tickets, I'm a season ticket holder. I can't go to all those games. But they specifically sold those tickets because all of a sudden, but I guarantee you, they're going to go to the Cardinals series because I already know. Because all those people that were here that were texting me saying, oh, I'm not going to the game, I can't stand this team, are going to Saturday and Sunday games. So what does that tell you? They did not want to go and deal with Yankee fans. That's a joke, all right? Right? You talk all that shit on social media. You talk about, oh, Yankee fans are this, Yankee fans are that. You embarrassed yourself. No, shooter. Yankee fans never take over Citi Field or even Shea Stadium, okay? They never did, ever. Even when the Mets had no chance of making the playoffs and they were a terrible team, there was at least a 60-40 split Mets fans to Yankee fans. Yankee fans can take over Tampa. Yankee fans can take over other ballparks that nobody cares about. You do not do that. Easy. It has nothing to do with casual fans. These are season ticket holders. That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. I'm sorry. No, it's not. I'm sorry. It's not just the way it is. That's an embarrassment. So the team was good last year. So all of a sudden, I'm going to show up because, I'm confident in my team. Now I can show the Yankee fans. So when the team needs you the most, you back away from them. But yet, if this team goes on a 10-game winning streak, they'll be the first ones buying tickets to a game and to an important series, into an important game late in the season, if the games matter. That's a joke. All right, I don't want to hear this casual fan bullshit because that 11,276 were fans that bought multiple tickets to games. That is the problem. No. You see, hear what I'm saying? The Mets fans didn't take over Fenway Park. There was a lot of fans there, but there's still more Boston fans there. Okay, there is. All right, just listen. I want you to go back. Listen to the game on Tuesday, specifically because I was there. Right? Yesterday, it was more of a 50-50. It might have been a little bit more Mets fans there. Yeah, I understand that, Steven. But that's the Braves. Let them be bandwagon fans. Okay? Fair weather fans. If you don't know what that is, please Google. The whole point of this, there are... No. Easy. I'm sorry. No. You see, this is the problem that I have. With a lot of, and I always talk about this on the channel. If you guys follow my channel for a long time, you guys know I don't like bandwagon fans because they'll be the first team. I'm not talking about other teams. I'm not talking about other teams. Fuck the other teams. I'm talking about Citi Field in your home ballpark. You sold your tickets knowing Yankee fans are going to buy it. And I'm not talking about fans that needed the money. That's understandable. That's fucking life. You know what else also is life? If things happen in your life. All of a sudden, 11,276 that sold their tickets prior to the Subway Series 1 or 2 days before and a lot during that day. Shooter, it doesn't matter if the team fucking sucks. The whole point is, during the Wilpon era, the team fucking sucked as well. But guess what? There was always more Mets fans than Yankee fans at Citi Field. Watch those games and tell me the difference in crowd noise when the Mets scored and the Yankees scored. I'm telling you right now, there was louder Yankee, let's go Yankees chants than there was Mets fan chant on Tuesday. All right? That should not happen. I'm not talking about it's the 9th inning, the Yankees have a big lead and Met fans left. That wasn't the case. This was in the 2nd and 3rd inning when the place was packed. Right? People want to call themselves a fan of a team, and as soon as things go wrong, they run away. And then they show up, oh, look at me, Met fans, yay! No. You're an embarrassment to a fan base that sticks around. Right? All this time, we dealt with the Wilpons. You were showing up the Subway Series, and there was more Mets fans than Yankee fans at Citi Field. Why? They weren't a good team then. There is, well, you know what then? There's no such thing as bandwagon Met fans. You sure about that? Were you around in 2015? Because I saw Met hats all around the city in 2015. All right? So let's not act like there aren't bandwagon fans. There is. The point of the matter is that too many people back away from their team. 70 games, you got 90-plus games left. You're 4 games out of a wild card. You know what? I swear, I pray that this team comes back and plays well and makes the playoffs. Because all you embarrassing bandwagon Mets fans will get called out by me. I'm telling you this. I told you this right away because even Yankee fans that were sitting next to me were shocked how many Yankee fans were there. Did you listen to the post game yesterday with Justin Verlander saying, wow, I didn't realize how many Yankee fans come to the ballpark when the Mets and Yankees play. Right? The players noticed that. So if you didn't notice that, or you didn't care to notice that and think that wasn't going to happen, the amount of season tickets that was sold on the secondary market from Mets fans, from Mets accounts, Mets ballpark app accounts. Yeah, easy, that's fine. But I'm not talking about those fans. Well, JV pitched well, right? I think JV pitched extremely well. He stuck right with Cole. So he pitched well. Steven, probably. But here's the problem. Like I said, I went to Philadelphia last year in August, in the middle of August, when the Phillies were still struggling and they weren't even in a playoff spot. There was still more Philly, and that was with the 7 line there. There was more Philly fans than Mets fans. Yes, when the Mets were beating their ass later in the game, it was like the 6th, 7th inning, and Philly fans were leaving. Yeah, of course that you're gonna hear the Mets fans more. But when in the early part or the middle part of the game, there was more Philly fans than Mets fans. That was a complete embarrassment on Tuesday. It really was. Yeah, but you admit that, but it has nothing to do with. There's enough Mets fans to have more Mets fans at Citi Field over the Yankee fans. I'm sorry, it is, because Wednesday. Look at on Wednesday. Look at on Wednesday. I spoke to my friend that went to the game. He says he went to both games. He said to me, I'm going to find it right now. Give me 1 second. Hold on. All right, here he is. All right, so we had a lot of text last night. Okay, here he goes. He goes, "Hey Rob, I know we were talking on Tuesday that there was definitely more Yankee fans than Met fans on Tuesday. Probably around 60-40. It seemed like that because it was loud. Right? Then I asked him, I go, "Hey buddy, I know you're at the game. What do you think of the crowd level? What do you think? More Mets fans, more Yankee fans?" He says, "It sounds 50-50, but I do believe that there's more Mets fans here. It's probably more like 55-45, around that." That's what he said. So there was more Mets fans on Wednesday than Tuesday. So don't tell me that Mets fans don't show up or it's the same city or whatever it might be. No. Right? Mets fans show up. They didn't show up on Tuesday, and that's when I called them out. So what was the idea of, because a lot of the season ticket holders went on Wednesday, not Tuesday, or did they not? Why did they sell the ticket? Well, easy, yeah, of course it did. But you know what? Did you hear that Brandon Nimmo when the Mets came back and tied the game? It was extremely loud. It was much louder than what the Yankee fans did. But I'm telling you right now, I swear to you guys, and look, the last thing I want to do is get on Mets fans but I am consistent. If I'm going to get on the bandwagon fans of other teams, right? When was the last time we seen the Philly fans in this chat? The Phillies are playing better now. I guarantee you're going to start seeing Philly fans come up on the chat. We haven't seen them all year, except for the beginning of the year. Right? And I call them out all the time. BX, I know you did. You told me. I know. Yeah, you don't have to say sorry. Listen, if it was a reason, I know why you said it, because you sent me a comment, BX. And it wasn't because of personal reasons of, financially or, something happened in your life, which would have been understandable. Your comment was one of the people I was talking about. But, I don't care what the manager says. This comes all down to the players. The players got to perform, right? Escobar was watching the ball standing on second base when he should have been home even before the freaking ball dropped, or at least been halfway. The Nimmo base running error. I know why Nimmo, what he said after the game made sense. So there was a lot of people at fault in that. But Nimmo has to keep his head up and watch the runner in front of him. You are the trail runner. You're not the lead runner. The trail runner needs to look up and watch the runner. What are we going to do? How about this? I'd rather people go to the game. If you have a ticket to the game, right, and you don't need the money necessarily, and nothing happened in your life that you have to sell the ticket because you can't go to the game. If you want to voice your displeasure and boo them to the high heavens and criticize them on social media or criticize them, screaming at them and stuff like that at the game, do that. I'd rather you do that and voice your displeasure than sitting, if this was a Washington Nationals against the Mets and you sold your ticket because the team's bad, the Washington National fans aren't buying the tickets. You know what I'm saying? You would just have less fans there. The problem is that you let the Yankee fans take over. Like, who did you think were going to buy the tickets? Like, that's what I don't understand. Steven, I don't think the Alonso thing has anything to do with it. Honestly, I don't. The Mets have been scoring runs. They haven't been pitching. That has nothing to do with Alonso. Can we stop, please, talking about the lineup, guys? My God. Shooter, I can assure you that 29 other owners probably did something that is probably bad enough to probably get karma. So let's not act like all these owners did everything correctly to get rich. Like, let's be honest. Crossface, I agree. Why do the A's fans show up? To show their displeasure. I have no problem with a fan base showing up and booing the shit out of their team. Do it. Voice your displeasure. But you know what's even more embarrassing? Having everybody talk when the players said it after the game about, even Verlander was like, wow, I couldn't believe how many Yankee fans were in the ballpark. He goes, I don't know if that usually happens. No, JV, that doesn't happen. I'm sorry. If the Yankees are bad, I can assure you the Yankee fans are probably going to show up in Yankee Stadium. They're not going to. Some of them will. Those bandwagon fans, those fair weather fans, they would. Yeah, I understand, Steven. But, what is funny to me is that people bitch and moan about this team. That's fine. But the people that are giving up on a team that are 4 games out of a wild card, where we're facing a lot of the teams that are in front of us, you have 1 week. You have 1 good week. You're probably in one of those 3 wild cards or at least a game out, because it's so bunched up that a week of good games can change the whole complexion of your season. Look, BX, no, it's not on Buck. It's on Escobar, because Escobar is the third baseman. I played third base my entire life. One thing you do when a guy's on third base is you always keep your eye out for the guy on third base, so you can scream out, step off, or he's running. Something to alert the pitcher that he's running, he's stealing home. I'm sorry. Well, yeah, we're short of pitching now because the umpires don't know what rosin and sweat is. And again, it's been more of the Mets and the Yankees that the umpires have been going after more than anybody else in this. I'm not even putting the Mets on their own. It's both Mets and the Yankees that there's been a big problem with the umpires. And it's also that another crew that is just nitpicking, just like the McNeil was on the bag and saying that he was in a shift violation, which is hilarious to me. But you know what? Good thing the Mets have a day off today, because like you said, Easy, that we're down another pitcher and we can't replace him on the roster for 10 days. That sucks. Yeah, but BX, again, that's on the players, though. I'm sorry. The manager, I'm sorry. You're a professional ball player. If you don't get that, if you don't understand baseball 101, I'm sorry. This is not the minor leagues. This is not instructional league. This is not college. This is not, high school. This is not freaking Pee-wee. This is not Little League, where you got to teach these guys. That's a veteran at third base. Maybe if it was Brett Beatty, I would say, okay, you know what? Maybe the coaches should have been made Brett Beatty a little bit aware. Young kid, hasn't played a ton of games in Major League Baseball. You want to remind him. That's a career veteran there that should know better. I'm sorry, that's on Escobar. That's on nobody else. I'm sorry. Well, why is Cora a perfect fit? Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll see. Like, I'm sorry. I don't care if you have the best manager in baseball. When your players have base running errors, when your players can't hit, when your players can't play defense, a lot of that's maybe the mental part a little bit is on the coach, but everything else is on the players. I'm sorry. Is it Buck's fault that Nimmo dropped that ball in center field and cost us the game on Tuesday? Or cost us the go-ahead run that led to the Yankees winning? No. Right? Was that Buck's fault when Nimmo got picked off for second base because he thought Vientos was going to score? No. Was that McNeil throwing the ball away? Was that Buck's fault? No. I mean, come on. Again, when Buck couldn't do no wrong last year, and Buck was basically everybody gave Buck credit. And I'm not saying Buck had a good year at all this year. He had a lot of moments this year that I didn't agree with. But is Buck Showalter on the mound when he can't trust anybody in his bullpen other than Robertson? You know what I'm saying, guys? It's kind of funny. Well, Crossface, you said that about JV too. And he went mano-a-mano with Garrett Cole yesterday. Max Scherzer needs – I was talking to Ken. I know Ken's not on the chat, but I know he's watching. Ken and me talked for about a half hour the other day talking about Max Scherzer. If Max Scherzer stops throwing his slider or at least throws it very, very little – every other pitch is perfectly fine. I rewatched. If you go back and watch the Mets, the first game, the Tuesday night game against the Yankees, other than his slider, all the hits that he gave up, except for one, was on a slider. His fastball, even though it was 93, 94, occasionally 95, they weren't hitting his fastball. The curveball, they were out in front. His changeup, they were out. His changeup. They were out in front. They were off balance on his curveball. It was his slider that was getting hit hard. So I'm sorry, when you have a fastball, changeup, and curveball working, you're not washed. If your slider is the only pitch that is causing you problems, right? Verlander didn't have his fastball yesterday. Guess what he went to? His other three pitches. His cutter, his slider, and his curveball. He threw his fastball at times to, change it up a little bit, but he was mostly throwing breaking balls and off-speed pitches. So in Scherzer's case, he needs to limit his sliders a little bit more. I watched the entire Mets-Yankee game on Tuesday, the next day, just so I can see. I'm like, was Scherzer really that bad? Yeah, he gave up the runs. That's on him. He gets all the blame. But all of the hits except for one against Scherzer were all on the sliders. And that's why I believe. Yeah, but BX, that should have never happened. And again, we keep on looking at Vientos like he's the next coming of Babe Ruth. All right. Or, Willie Mays or freaking, Mark Vientos is not that good, guys. Could we stop acting like this guy? The only reason why he's a top prospect in the Mets system because the Mets farm system has been terrible for the last couple of years. Put him in a farm system that is actually good. He'll be lucky to hit the top 20. All right? He's a positionless player. He made some nice scoops at first base. But you know what? Everybody always says, a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, right? You can always find a moment when a ball player makes a good play or does something good. But you know what? That throw by McNeil shouldn't have thrown it. But Vientos also did not have the proper footwork at first base either. So, and again, Scherzer takes all the blame for that Tuesday game. I'm sorry. You have a four-run lead. And in my group chat, when the Mets went up 5-1, I'm like, oh, look at this. A 4-run lead? we're back to this again, and exactly what I said in the group chat. And that, I swear to God, that maybe I jinxed it, but I don't think in that superstitious nonsense. But I think we all felt that something was going to go wrong. But Mike, again, watch the game. All right, I want you to watch the game, not just watch in the moment, because too many people look at the moment and don't process the outing. When his fastball, curveball, and changeup could not be touched by Yankees hitters. He got hurt by his slider. And I can almost guarantee that you're going to see less sliders from Scherzer his next time out. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to pitch well. I'm not saying that. But look at the game. Break it down. All of his hits that he gave up, except for one, was the slider. Steven, I don't know if it's age though, because they weren't hitting his fastball. So his fastball sneaks up on the hitters still. If they were crushing his fastball, I would say, okay, you don't have that zip, that sneaky, even 93, 94 can look sneaky if you throw it in the right spot, which is probably nowadays it's letter to neck high, where every hitter seems to go after those pitchers because of the launch angle swing. He was not getting beat by his curveball, changeup, and fastball. If he was getting hit hard with his fastball, if you go back to the Braves game that he pitched, the Braves had 10 hits against Scherzer. 8 of those were on the slider. So, Mike, I understand that. You need a tight grip, but that doesn't mean he has to throw it either. I'm sorry. Have you not seen? Did you hear what the other pitchers have been saying around the league about the sticky stuff and having a grip on a ball? You can be very wild with a fastball. All right, you need grip to throw a fastball as well, not just a slider. So what's wrong with his curveball? You need a lot of grip on that because you're using less pressure than you are a slider. When you're throwing a slider, you got 2 fingers more pressure on the ball on the seam than on a curveball. You'll probably have 1 finger that has a lot of pressure on the ball. So you need a lot more grip on the curveball than you do a slider because of the torque. It's 1 pitch. All right, if he was getting beat and destroyed by his fastball, then we have a real conversation. Right? I'm sorry. You need a tight grip for every pitch. If you throw a ball, you know that. I'm sorry. Come on. Like, you need a grip to throw a fastball. Pitchers talk about it all the time around the league, that they need a grip even if they're throwing a fastball because pitchers can get away. The ball's too slick. All right? Some have better control than others, but I'm sorry. You need just as much grip with a slider than you do with a curveball. You probably need it more for a curveball because you're putting less pressure on your fingers with the curveball. And you're twisting your wrist and you're torquing your wrist a lot more. With a slider, you're going like this. With a curveball, you're going like this, depending on, especially with Scherzer, who is more like 3/4 when he throws his ball. I agree, Easy. He gives up too many home runs. But what have he, again, look at all the home runs he gave up. 2 home runs this year. All the home runs he's given up this year. Right? Yeah, Stanton can't carry a team. All right? No, he doesn't. Right? In the playoffs, Stanton's gold because nobody else can actually perform the playoffs for the Yankees. During the season, Stanton takes – I'm sorry. Jake Bauer had the best at-bats yesterday, the whole series against the Mets. Jake Bauer's. Not Stanton. Stanton hit a home run and he did nothing else the rest of the day, the rest of the 2 games. Right? All the home runs that Scherzer has given up, 2 of them, one was on a curveball and the other one was on a fastball. Everything else has been on a slider. Now, he threw his slider, yes, less than in the Yankee game than he did against the Braves, which is somewhat of a good sign because he realized that his slider is not as sharp as it once was, and that's okay. If you got 3 other pitches that are working, you don't have to go to your slider as your out pitch. But again, this is not an excuse for Scherzer because he blew the game. No matter what pitch he threw, he blew the game. You can't give Scherzer a 4-run lead and he gives it up. That's a no-no. That can't happen. No, Scherzer doesn't throw that pitch for strikes. He throws that, if you look at it, he throws a lot, mostly to right-handers. He throws it away on the outside corner or further out in his zone. Scherzer can throw all his pitches for strikes because he was doing that with every other pitch. But you know what? That sneaky 93, 94 miles out of fastball that he still has, they couldn't touch that. In the first inning, when I saw him throwing 93, 94, I'm like, okay. I saw him throw 95, 96. Wait, curve, fastball change isn't a mix of a starter. Yes, it is. Verlander had the same pitches. Yes, it is. Starters do have that. Well, I don't see. I hate when people talk about that you need a mandatory sweep. I mean, that's come on. Like, yeah, I understand it, but you know what? The Oakland A's also beat the Braves 2 out of 3. So it's baseball, right? Anybody can beat anybody on any given day. So, mandatory sweep, yeah, of course we want that. But the Mets can lose 3 to the Cardinals and sweep the Astros because baseball never makes sense, right? How did the Oakland A's win 7 in a row? Aren't they the worst team in baseball? That shouldn't happen. The Yankees right now only hit for power. They only have 2 full-time starters that hits over 260, Judge and Rizzo, and Judge is hurt. Oh, well, you know what though? With these Steven, that's what I'm talking about. But that's what I'm saying. Like, baseball is a weird game, right? The best team in baseball, which is the Rays, lost a series to the Athletics. Baseball doesn't make sense. Let's stop trying to predict baseball like we know. I don't, we might know a ton about baseball, but you can never predict the game, all right? Everybody told you after game 1 of the Subway Series that Justin Verlander was going to get killed in this game. No chance. Well, he pitched pretty well. And again, he should pitch pretty well against that Yankee offense, unlike Scherzer. But everybody thought Justin Verlander was going to get rocked, even with the Yankees lineup. So again, if you can predict baseball, you would be a billionaire. But it's unpredictable. Baseball is one of the most unpredictable sports, right? Usually the best team in basketball wins. Usually. Right? The Denver Nuggets are one of the best teams in the league. They won the championship. Hockey, either way, because hockey's a very unpredictable sport as well. Football, a lot of the times, the best team usually wins the Super Bowl. Occasionally you'll have that, team that nobody expected. But baseball is one of those teams, and guys, we've watched it for the last 5 years. We laughed at the Washington Nationals in the first half of 2019 because there was no chance that everybody thought they won the World Series. If I told you in 2019, in July, that the Washington Nationals was going to win a World Series when they were 5 games under 500, you would have laughed at me and told me I don't know baseball. In 2021, when the Braves won the division in the NL East because nobody else gave them any type of challenge, and I told you the Braves are going to win the World Series when Brave fans didn't even believe that in 2021 because they weren't even close to being the best team in 2021. They won a World Series. Look at the Phillies last year. In the middle of August, I was in Philadelphia. Philly fans were walking out of the game saying, I can't believe this team with this payroll and the players we got that they suck so much. They were walking out saying that when we were throwing it in their face that the Mets were beating them. But they had the last laugh, right? You can't predict this sport. So predicting that you're going to sweep somebody, we all want that. But baseball is too unpredictable to just say it's a mandatory. It's mandatory because the Mets have sucked and we need those W's. Absolutely. Well, again, Shooter, how many people predicted that the Mets were going to have a good season? A lot of people did. Some even picked the World Series. I didn't. I didn't pick the Mets to win the division this year. I don't think you should ever pick a team that hasn't beaten a team for the division. The Phillies and the Mets. The Braves have been dominated the NL East. It's embarrassing if anybody chose the Mets to win a division when nobody has done that against the Braves for a while. That's not fair to the Braves. Right? The Phillies, who I want to show you something, guys. ESPN put this stat. If you watched the game yesterday, they put up a thing about the top 7 payrolls in baseball as of yesterday, right? Top 7 teams of payrolls. The Mets, the Yankees, this is in order. Mets, Yankees, Padres, Phillies, Dodgers, Angels, Blue Jays. Out of those 7 teams from yesterday, 2 of those teams are in a playoff spot. 2. And both are wild card teams. The Yankees, who are up by a game in the 3rd wild card spot, and the Dodgers, who are the 1st wild card team. Every other team in top 7 of the payroll, so 5 out of the 7 are not in a playoff spot. So it's not just the Mets, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make that perfectly clear. It's not just the Mets. Well, yeah, Shooter, but again, yeah, they can win the World Series. They can make the playoffs. But every other team that has a possibility of making the playoffs through a wild card or finding their way through a division championship can win a World Series. Baseball has become a lot like the hockey playoffs. Just get in. Did you watch the NHL playoffs? The Florida Panthers, who's in the last day of the season made the playoffs, got to the Stanley Cup Finals. The Golden Knights, who were a good team, weren't a great team, won the Stanley Cup. Well, Mike, it's not the point, but when Mets fans say, oh, season is over, there's no chance, they watch teams in their own division that were under 500, had worse records than the Mets at this point last year, or in the years when those teams either won the World Series or made it to a World Series. In our own division, we saw this. And we act like it can't happen. That's what's frustrating. Right? The Nationals, who choked, who couldn't get out of the first round of the playoffs every year, when the American playoffs, winning the NL East year after year after year. They got rid of their best player in Bryce Harper. They didn't sign and re-sign him. They won the World Series the following year. You can't predict that crap at all. Same thing with the Braves. When Acuna went down, do you think any Brave fan thought the Braves are going to win the World Series? Come on, guys. Think. Pay attention. This is why baseball is so different now. You might not like the wild card extra teams. I don't either. But let's not act like that's not a segue to getting into the playoffs and the Mets can't make a run. Remember, these are short series. These are 7 games, 5-game series. It only takes a good 2.5 weeks to go on a run in the playoffs. Jay, thank you, Baby Shark. I was going to bring that up. He was their best hitter in the playoffs other than Juan Soto. The guy is not even, what is it, Para. He was one of their best hitters in the postseason other than Soto. Patrick Corbin was one of their best pitchers in the playoffs for the Nationals in 2019. The guy can't get out of his own way now. Look at Strasburg. Great in 2019. The guy can't get on the mound anymore. So let's not act like we can predict stuff like this. And saying the season is over with 90 games to go. This team is not 20 games over 500. They're not the St. Louis Cardinals, who, oh, by the way, are coming in. Right? The Cardinals, who are one of the most consistent organizations in baseball, who consistently find a way to win every year, win the division, make the playoffs. Yeah, exactly, Steven. Absolutely. Right? I can guarantee you there was Brave fans on the channel that were like, oh, I can't believe this. We lost our best player. If I would have told you, oh, don't worry, at the deadline, they're going to get Rosario and Soler, you would have laughed at me acting like they were going to help this team win a World Series. And they were the two almost biggest pieces. Soler was the World Series MVP. Nobody would have predicted that. You would have probably said Freddie Freeman or something like that. Or Swanson. Or Albies. I mean, it's crazy. I love the fact that you guys are passionate and it's disappointed. But let's act like this team is 20 games out. They're not. I can assure you mathematically, when you're 4 games out with 90 plus games to go, there's a chance. Not saying that it can happen because the Mets have to play better. But let's not act like the rest of the National League is playing well. Again, I just gave you all the stat that the top 7 teams in payroll, 2 teams, the Yankees and the Dodgers, are in the playoffs at this point yesterday. And they're both wild card teams. The Yankees are hanging on by a thread for the 3rd wild card. And the Dodgers and the Arizona Diamondbacks going back and forth with the 1st wild card. That is crazy to me. So when people are like, oh, the worst team money can buy. Okay, you could say that about the Phillies. You could say that about the Padres. You could say that about the Angels. You could say that about a lot of teams. Remember, guys, how many times were the Mets never the biggest payroll and it was either the Yankees or the Dodgers? The Dodgers choked every year in the playoffs. The Yankees couldn't get out of their own way in the playoffs, couldn't get to a World Series. Right? The Padres were spending money prior to the Cohen era. Right? Let's not act like they're winning anything either the last couple of years. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that the Met fans are so narrow focused on just their team and not paying attention to the other teams who have very big payrolls as well. The Padres are a huge disappointment. They made bigger signings than the Mets this year. There was people picking them to win the division. I picked them to win the division. It's just crazy to me that we're like, oh, look at the Mets, the highest payroll in baseball. That's fine. They should be better with that payroll. But let's not act like if every other NL East team that were in the top 7 doing what they were supposed to be doing, which most of them are not, being better than what they are, then we have a real gripe with the Mets. Well, wow, this is embarrassing because everybody else spent money and they had no problem. Well, the Mets aren't the only problem in Major League Baseball with the top 7 teams in payroll. Right? Shouldn't the Yankees, who are number 2 in payroll, oh, by the way, shouldn't they be better? Only 9 games over 500. Again, that's a hell of a lot better than the Mets. But they're at risk of not making the playoffs because the Rays and the Orioles right now are better than them, and Toronto's right up their ass. Yeah, Steven, it can be done. But Tampa Bay doesn't have another choice. They have to be great in their scouting. If they don't, they're going to be bottom feeders. Right? How much better could the Rays be if they actually had money like the Mets and the Yankees, with their amazing developmental coaching and their whole system? Well, crossface, yeah, it's about development, absolutely. But you know what? The Rays can win divisions. They can make the playoffs every year. They haven't won yet either. So, and that goes the same thing for Moneyball with the Oakland A's, right? Everybody was trying to follow the Moneyball era of the Oakland A's because they were successful for 1 year and made the playoffs with a bunch of has-nots. And everybody tried to replicate that. They don't win anything. Like, let's not act like these teams are winning World Series left and right. Right? It's still the teams that, yes, develop, but also bring in big-name guys, right? The Astros, they brought in Justin Verlander. They brought in Garrett Cole. They signed good bullpen arms. Yeah, their core is the young players, but don't the Mets have a core? Alonso, McNeil, Nimmo, Alvarez, Beatty. That's 5 guys. That's not enough. Now, these guys might not be the guys. We don't really know that yet for a couple of more years. But there's a core here. you have to add to that core. Like, look at the last couple of years. The Washington Nationals, right? Bought Max Scherzer, bought Patrick Corbin, right? Yes, they had Harper. Yes, they had Soto. Yes, they had Strasburg, Zimmerman. But they brought in big names to help their core. The Braves, the same thing. Right? Let's not act like the Braves just, Charlie Morton was a big part of their postseason in 2021. They brought him in. Right? Same thing with the Phillies. Harper, Schwarber, Castellanos, Wheeler. Let's not act like they have a huge core here that the Phillies, who is the Phillies core that showed up in the playoffs? Because all I remember was Harper and Schwarber, and they were bought. Well, everybody's envious of the Rays, but the Rays have not won a World Series yet. So until they do, it doesn't matter because they don't win. Sorry. It also works like that. Let's be honest, guys. Look, big payrolls have been winning World Series. Nationals, huge payroll 2019. 2020, shortened year. The Dodgers had the biggest payroll in baseball. They won the World Series. Yeah, they beat the Rays, but it was a 60-game season, right? 2021, the Braves and the Astros. The Braves, it's not like they had the 20th payroll in baseball. They were in the top 12. They had a over $150 million payroll. That is a lot. I'm not crapping on them, but until they win, it's not successful, right? The consistency is amazing. I'll give you that. But don't you play baseball? Don't you in Major League Baseball, you play to win a World Series? You don't play to win 100 games, right? If that was the case, the Mets had a great season last year. The Yankees, 99 wins, had a great season. I give all the respect in the world to the Rays. They're an amazing organization with the lack of money and keep on bringing up good players. I mean, a lot of these guys on this team, on the Rays, are guys that couldn't make it anywhere else. And they're figuring it out with the Rays. So the Rays organization is doing something right. But they also only get so far. Until they win a World Series, it's not set in stone is that's how you do it. Because the Yankees have been top 3 in payroll for about how many years now? 20 years? It's got them one World Series in the last, 21 years, 22 years? Right? So they developed guys, right? They had that core, right? They weren't developing a lot of guys. They started to spend a lot of money, right? The Yankees should be better than what they are. They should be getting to World Series. They haven't got since 2009. Well, that's what I'm saying, explosive, because when they get to the playoffs, they get exposed because the guys that have good years that are basically journeymen. Look at their lineup. A lot of those guys are journeymen. Look at their numbers career-wise. All of them are having career years. A lot of the times, those players get exposed in the playoffs. The Yankees, for years, Yankee fans talk about it all the time. They get exposed in the playoffs because, they can beat up bad pitching in the season, but when they face good to great pitching in the playoffs every single day, they get exposed because when you only hit home runs and you don't have guys that are batting 260 or higher besides Judge, even though Judge hasn't been good in the playoffs, nobody shows up. That is the thing. Well, I agree, Jay. And look, it's crazy. All right, Steven, have a good day at work. Don't work too hard, buddy. And it's impossible to say this is the way to develop it. This is the way to build a team to win a World Series. Because every year there's 29 other teams that thought they built it right. But one team succeeds. So everybody, right? Remember, when the Yankees were going through that dynasty, right? Was everybody trying to replicate the Yankees? No. Everybody was doing their own thing. But as soon as the Rays came along and doing it with a $60 million payroll, everybody tried to start replicating it. And the same thing with the Oakland A's in the early 2000s. Everybody tried to replicate it. They didn't win nothing. Christopher, I think it's a lot of luck involved. I think it's a combination of money and guys that you already have in your team, the core guys. You need to develop players. That's obvious, right? No team wins a World Series by just buying players. It's rare. If it does happen, it's very rare. But you have to have a balance. You can spend the most money, but if you don't spend the money on the right guys, which every GM that signs a player thinks that's the right guy at the time. But baseball is not played on paper. If it was, the biggest payroll would win every year, wouldn't it? And good managing, yeah. But was Rob Thompson a good manager, or the Phillies just got hot for a month and a half? Because if Rob Thompson a great manager, what's the problem with the Phillies this year? It's a lot of luck. It's a lot of momentum, and it's getting now in baseball. It's to get hot at the right time, because the Phillies had one of the worst bullpens in baseball history last year, and they were 29th in defensive stats last year. 2 of those don't scream out World Series appearance, World Series contenders, and that was almost the entire year. But guess what? Those same players started to play a little bit better defense, started pitching better in the bullpen. It changed it around. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's just about one thing or another. Right? All of a sudden, Rob Thompson was a great manager. If he's so great, what's the problem with the Phillies this year? That's the issue that I have. Buck Showalter got manager of the year last year. A lot of people think he deserved it. 101 wins. Yeah, it ended bad, but it was a really good season. So what's the problem this year? All of a sudden he can't manage? Like, come on. So, look, it's a lot of luck. You got to stay healthy, a lot of momentum, and you got to get hot at the right time. I think it's a lot more luck and hot at the right time than it is looking at the roster and say, oh, they're going to win the championship. It's not the case. Because the best roster in baseball with the best record was the Los Angeles Dodgers. They got beat by a team that they dominated during the regular season in the Padres. Couldn't get out of the first round. The Braves, who were the second best team in baseball, got beat by the third wildcard team in the Phillies in the first round. The Mets lost to a second wildcard team in the wildcard round. So 3 of the best teams in baseball, none of them got past the first round. You can't predict that. I'm sorry. It's impossible. Great play makes exactly. If the players perform, the manager looks great, right? If the Mets would have won that game, Yankee fans would have been calling for Aaron Boone to be fired because he left Severino in there to give that fifth run. But because the Yankees won, nobody talked about it. So once again, guys, the Mets split the Subway Series. This is the way basically it goes almost every year, not all the time. Last year, Mets took 2 at City, Yankees took 2 at Yankee Stadium. So it's kind of back and forth. Again, nothing about this series can make any fan base feel good about their team. The Yankees deserve to lose both games, and the Mets deserve to lose both games. They split because both of them suck. They didn't play well at all. Tuesday, the Yankees were bouncing the ball all over the place. Torres was kicking the ball. Volpe was throwing the ball 20 rows up in the stands. Nimmo couldn't catch a fly ball. Escobar couldn't, remember how to run bases. Like it's crazy. Vientos, doesn't have proper footwork. Like everything's not coaching. A lot of the times it's up to the player, a professional player, by the way, not just, a guy that is in developmental league in the minors. These are professional ball players. They always going to make mistakes. They're human. But when you make simple mental mistakes, it's because they're not focused. That's on the players. So once again, guys, thank you for tuning in for the Mets Monday report. Mets face the Cardinals, the very disappointing Cardinals this year. I don't even know what to predict with this series, to be honest with you, because, yeah, the Mets should win, but we've said that a lot this year. So I'm going to go with an open mind in this series. And if the Mets pitch well, they'll probably win. If they don't, they'll probably lose. So we'll see what happens. 3 games at Citi Field against the Cardinals. Tyler McGill gets to start tomorrow for the New York Mets. Let's see if Tyler McGill can actually remember how to pitch and pitch good. Can you give me 5 innings, 2 runs, please? Not 4 innings, 6 runs? We shall see. So once again, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Mets Monday Report. Once again, shout out to JLO Media for bringing me on board to their company and collaborating with many other Mets content creators through podcasts and YouTube. So I do appreciate that. So big things are coming. This channel and other channels and podcasts are coming together through JLO Media to bring you the best content possible. And again, don't forget to follow JLO Media on Twitter, on Instagram. He also has a newsletter, a blog, and all that fun stuff. He's coming out with a podcast as well soon. So make sure you follow them on Instagram and Twitter and check those guys out as well. Constant Mets updates for scores, highlights, and all that fun stuff on the JLO Media, Twitter, and Instagram. So make sure you follow them. Once again, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Mets Monday Report. Even though it's not a Monday report, it still feels like an off day Monday. It is a Thursday, which is very, very weird. But Mets off day report and Mets Monday report, because it feels like a Monday because of the off days that the Mets usually have. So with that said, everybody have a great night. Let's go Mets. Have a good night, guys. See you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Mets Cardinals right here on Talking Mets Rob. Have a good night, guys.
For all your Mets here.